All right, now that we have the bike completely disassembled, now it's time to get to the audio. So we're gonna start by doing is, seeing that this bike only has the OEM 50-watt speakers in the front fairing, we're gonna go ahead and remove these on both sides. So that way we can start the modifications to these front enclosures to get our new Cicada Audio CH6 5.2-inch coaxial speakers in this enclosure. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna grab a 4mm again. And what I'm gonna use is my ratchet again with a longer 4mm. It has 4 screws in it. So what I like to do is I start at the bottom ones and then I work my way up to the top. I'll leave this one in last. So let's go ahead and remove this. And these are just very simple 4mm self-threading screws, because the inserts are plastic. And what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to pull this bar back to give us more clearance for this, so that way we're not hitting the bar. All right, now we put those aside for right now. And then what I like to do is I just take the tweeter mount here and I just pull up just gently. And then you're gonna tilt it this way and pull it up out of the way. And you really can't see it, but there's just an electrical connection back here. You push the tab, you pull it out. So then we just have this one wire. And later in the video, we'll do a side-by-side comparison with these and the new speakers. So let's go over to the other side and get that one out as well. Just like the brake side, the clutch side is done the exact same way. We've already pulled the handlebar up out of the way to give us more clearance for this screw. So let's go get these 4 screws removed. All right, so we're gonna remove the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws to get the wind deflector off and to get this outer piece off. The wind deflector comes off right with it. We're gonna go ahead and set these machine bolt screws with the speakers. Set that aside for the second. And then this has just got a couple little Velcro parts on the back side, as you can see, that hold it on here. So we're gonna go ahead and set this aside, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, just like the clutch side, on the brake side, we're also gonna remove this with the 4 fasteners, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the wind deflectors. So let's go ahead, get that disassembled. All right, now that we have the speaker removed, we have the outer trim piece removed, what I want to do is I want to provide some more protection, saying that the newer models now, the dashes are gloss black, but nonetheless you want to protect your work surface. Apply some painter's tape on the inside here and just a little bit here and here, just to ensure while we're in here cleaning up the spots that we need for the speaker clearance, we don't scratch this all up. Now, obviously, the first thing you're probably going to say is, well, Brandon, that doesn't look all that great. Hey, we're not worried about the painter's tape looking good. We're just worried about it protecting the plastic underneath. So, as you saw, I don't use a razor blade when cutting the painter's tape here, just because I don't want to take the chance of nicking anything. So, as you saw in a couple corners, I just ripped it, so that way we could bring the tape in here and around. But with this, we'll go to the other side, we'll do the same process, and then we will get to trimming these things. Just like the other side, we're gonna tape this one up too. And just like that, we have the brake side enclosure all taped up. So let's go ahead and get started modifying these enclosures. And where I want to start is this heated insert and get that removed, and I'll show you how I do it. All right, now one of the important parts of this modification is this heated insert. Now this heated insert is right in the area where we are going to be heating up to press the speaker. So me personally, I like to remove this completely and then trim off the plastic on the inside. You can leave this in and just trim it. It's a lot harder. So this is just what I personally do. You don't have to do this. You can just make the clearance from the inside. This just makes it a lot easier. You can use a heated insert tool, which is essentially a soldering iron with a special tip on it. I'm just going to use my battery operated soldering iron. This is an Aussie iron. I've had it for years. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this to heat up this insert to where it wobbles around in here. And then we're going to screw the screw back in just a couple threads and yank the whole thing out so we can trim the plastic. So let's go ahead and heat this up and get it out. All right, and then what we're going to do is, like I said, and just like that. All right, I just wanted to do a closer up view of this. I realized on the brake side, the soldering iron was in the way. So again, this is that heated insert that we're going to attack. So we're just going to take our cordless soldering iron, hold the button, we're going to stick it in here. And once it gets to the point where it's wobbling back and forth, up and down freely, then we'll be able to screw this screw in and pull it out. So. Okay, I don't know if you can see this very well, but to the point now where I can move the entire insert back and forth. We'll just give it just another second. You'll start seeing if you put pressure on it like I am, it's starting to sink further in. So that's telling me, yeah, we're really loose here. So we're gonna quickly pull the soldering iron out, get just a couple threads. And just like that, we now have out the heated insert. And some people might be asking, well, if we take out this heated insert, then we only have 3 screws holding this in. I promise you 3 screws is more than enough to hold this in. If we back up just a little bit, you can see that once you put this outer trim piece back on, it not only latches up here, but you have the one and these 2 screws down here, plus the Velcro. So missing this one insert isn't gonna hurt. My bike's been done like this for almost 2 years now. I know Bill Fisher's bike has been done like this for well over that, probably close to 2 years. And we've had 0 issues, no vibrations, no nothing. So now let's go ahead and get into the areas in which we have to trim on the inside of this enclosure and get those speakers put in. All right, so what I wanted to do before actually trimming this is I went through with a paint marker and highlighted the sections that we are going to clean up. So first, here's that tab on the inside where that heated insert was. So it's this plastic nub sticking out, and that's where the magnet's going in this direction, so we want to take that out. And now all the white squiggly lines here, these are just what I call casting tabs. As you can see, they're all the way here, and we even, just to clean it up and make it uniform, I even do those ones as well. But these are just the flat tabs that stick out. These might be by design for a little bit more rigidity, or it might just be from the mold itself. But we just trim all these flush on this side, including this. And I'll show you after we do the enclosure how we seal this back up. But just wanted to show you exactly what we're trimming. So let me get my tools out and we'll get this trimmed out. 2 tools that I really like to use. First is the Milwaukee straight angle grinder with a die grinder tip. This allows me to get in there, grind it off, and get it nice and smooth. For those really weird, hard to get places, this is a Milwaukee, I call it Dremel tool. And this is like the tip you can get for the roto zips and everything. I just use one of these because you can really just get to this tip and you can clean up little areas. And then lastly, you know, you got our protection. You got your eye protection and hearing protection because, well, I appreciate my hearing in my eyes, so I don't want anything getting in them or hurting them. So let's go ahead, let's get this modified so we can get these speakers in. All right, so now that we have everything trimmed up on the inside, before we go heating this and pressing the speaker in, one thing I like to do is take on my straight angle grinder, die grinder, a big old sanding flapping wheel. You can do this with the Dremel tool, but I just like to go around the speaker opening just to open this up just a little bit more to give more room for that basket, and that way when you go to put the speaker in, it's a little easier, and it also allows you to orient the speaker so Cicada audio or whatever brand speaker you're using will be nice and flush at the bottom. It's not, you know, cocked either way. So let's go ahead and get this sanded down. All right, just like the clutch side, we're gonna be trimming the same stuff. So like I showed you before, just these tabs that I painted white on both sides. And please, please remember this stud, which I had you take the heated insert out, is the only stud we are removing. Do not take out any other ones. There's another one up here. It's just this one stud and these casting pieces. Do not remove anything else. And then again, just run the sander around this area real quick to open it up, and that's it. So let's get the tool change going and get this done. So just like the clutch side, we now have this one all ready to be heated up and the speaker to be pressed in. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to the workbench. We are going to get the speaker ready to be put in. All right, now that we have the enclosures ready for these to be installed, well, enclosures heated and these speakers installed, there's something that I like to do. It's not 100% necessary. It's just something that I personally do because it gives it just a little bit more clearance. And that is that I take a shop towel, I fold it up, I wrap it up, and I tape it on the back of the magnet of the speaker towards the outside of the fairing. What's that do? It just gives you very, very small additional size on the magnet to push into the plastic. So when we take this towel off, it gives us just a little bit more clearance on the back side of the speaker and allows, you know, just more room and easier install. So let's go ahead and take these speakers. Like I said, what I do is I fold them just like this, you know, long ways, and then take a little bit of painter's tape. So what we'll do is we'll take this one, this speaker is gonna go in on the clutch side. So we wanna put the towel on this side right here. So like I said, I literally just put it right around here. So that way by the time it gets folded down, it just adds, it's minuscule, but hey, every little area helps. So. And just like that, this will be going on the clutch side. So we added the extra little bit right here. Like I said, it's not much, but every little bit helps. So let's go ahead and do this speaker real quick. And just like the other speaker, we now have this done as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them here so we know each side. And then what you need to do is you need to take your 1/4-inch ring spacer, set it on the speaker, because when we go to heat it up, we will be putting the screws back in here and we will be pressing these in. So let's go on over to the bike and let's get that heat gun and get this going. Okay, now we are on the clutch side enclosure again. So what I wanted to do is I highlighted the areas here in which we will be heating up. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat this area up. We're not going to just hold the heat gun in one location. We're going to kind of go back and forth, up and down, and then front to back. We're just going to continue working that until from the outside of the enclosure right here is where we're heating up, remember, to where you can push that and this starts feeling super soft. So you should be able to push it anywhere on that spot and it should press in pretty good. It will start to stink a little bit, and when you're heating it up on the inside, it will start to bubble a little bit. So once you get to that point where you can press it in really easily, then it's time to move over to put the speaker in. So all right, so we just need a couple of tools to make this happen. One being we need, again, the 4mm Allen that we were using earlier and the factory 4 screws that held this speaker in. One thing I like to do ahead of time is take our speaker that we've designated going to this side, and on the 2 outer corners, I like to push through 2 of the screws through the speaker and through the adapter ring. So that way, once this is heated up, I can quickly put the speaker in, find those 2 holes, and get it installed. So now that it's heated, we're going to take our speaker, like I said. Going to hold the adapter ring. We're going to go in from an angle. And then this is where the pressing comes into play. We're going to start this one and that screw. So now that we've got those 2, going to add the last 2 real quick. All right, so now that we have the enclosures heated up, the speakers pressed in and secured, we've let it cool down for a bit now. So now it's time to pull the speakers off. Let's get that tape off. We'll set them back in the box that they came in. And we're gonna do one last modification of these enclosures before these speakers go back in there for good. Oh, that made life a lot easier. All right, so at this point, there's only one modification left to do to both of these speaker enclosures. If you've been following along, you're probably thinking to yourself, what is that last step that we have to do? And if you're really paying attention, you'd already know that there's one thing that we haven't addressed yet. And those would be the single stud that we took out of each one. And as you remember, I removed completely the heated insert. So now, after that and cutting off that stud completely, we're left with a hole. So the way I like to cover up that hole is by putting a couple layers of masking tape on the outside of the enclosure here over that hole. And then I use just some JB Weld plastic bond, mix some of this up, and I coat where that hole is. I'll put one layer in there just to get it nice and on there. And then after about 10, 15 minutes, I'll go back there, reapply another one, because what'll happen is it'll run a little bit. So if we put like 2-3 coats right over that hole, it'll fill it in, it'll harden, it'll become part of the enclosure, and you'll never have to worry about it leaking air. Coat of the epoxy, so we're going to let that harden a little bit, because what's happening now is because obviously it's in the liquid form, because of this stuff is a little bit thinner, then it's going to ooze out just a little bit, and then once it hardens up, we'll go back through, put a second coat on it, and then maybe even a third like skim coat over all of it, and then we'll be good to go. All right, now that we've applied the epoxy. I wanted to give you a shot of how this one looks. Now we put 3 coats of epoxy on here and hit it with a little bit of sandpaper. It's had 24 hours to dry. Depending on the epoxy you use, it's up to you. So we did that, and then on the outside, we put a little bit on here. Now the trick I found is as soon as you mix this, it's like super runny. So what I do is I let it sit there for a couple of minutes, keep on rotating until it gets like thick like a paste, and then I come out here and I put a glob on here. Obviously I taped around here. Same trick there, and same trick on the inside. So there's that one. Clutch side, and that's how it looks once it's all modified. So now it's time to get the speaker wires and crossovers put in here, hooked up to the speaker, and get both speakers installed, so the fairing speakers will be done.